Good morning, everyone. We will get ready to get started here for the IHCDA December meeting. Want to open the floor and hear a couple of welcome remarks from Mayor Brad Schmidt, Mayor of Princeton, Indiana.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Thank you guys for being in Princeton, Indiana. We're extremely grateful for everything that you guys have done. This building right here, I'm not going to steal Logan's thunder because I know that Logan is he is extremely proud of what we have here, and the stuff that he's been able to accomplish in such a short period of time. They truly have gone from impromptu plays, kind of stuff like that, to they have truly made this into something that people all around the region are starting to come to now, and so we're very appreciative of that. You've got to have wonderful assets like this, but those assets also have to have wonderful people, and Logan is definitely one of those to help do that. With the Stellar, obviously we were a recipient, and we were one of the first ones where we got one of the larger grants with that. Because of that, if you've driven downtown, it has totally transformed that. So it's those types of projects and initiatives that really help drive communities. And right now, everybody across the state is, at least my understanding, is that we're all searching for employees and people. Quality of life initiatives are extremely important. I know that they may not necessarily be popular to some of the population, but they're absolutely necessary. And it is because of Stellar here of why we have now a great downtown with other initiatives like that. I know that everything that you guys are doing has been very focused on results-oriented, with some clawback measures and stuff like that, and I absolutely 100% endorse that. We need to have accountability in the stuff that we do, and I just want to commend you guys for what you're doing. So with that, I will turn it over to Logan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Schmidt, for the kind words. And again, we just want to show our appreciation for everything that you guys have done to make this happen. The theater company that oversees the facility has so much passion for what we do. And to be gifted a facility like this has been truly amazing. It has allowed us to step up what we are doing. Before we came in here, we were already doing a 4-show season, and we continue to put on 4 shows on the stage. But because we have this amazing facility, we are now doing a lot of extra events outside of our regular season. We are doing events like Readers Theaters, Murder Mystery Dinner Theater. We were able to do a free children's theater that was a big hit. We have an improv troupe that put on a show this year, and they work with the Princeton Police Department to do interactive training with them. We've done a vendor fair, a lot of things that really allow the community to interact with us. It's not just them coming in and watching a show, but interacting with the community in a way that we would not be able to do if we didn't have a facility like this. We also bring in outside events. We have done concerts and stand-up shows, again, that wouldn't be possible if we didn't have a facility that we can call a home like we didn't have before. Also, we thrive because we are able to rent it out to the facility. It's truly a community center where people can come in and produce their own events. Weddings, showers, reunions, Sweet 16s, really anything you can imagine, it's been in here. The North Gibson School Corporation had a Night of Excellence where they recognized students that have achieved, and the city did a Painting with a Twist fundraiser. So because we have this facility, people in the community are able to do things that they really wouldn't be able to do in a facility anywhere else in the city. We just, again, want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we want to thank you, Logan, and the Board of Directors of the Princeton Theater here, and Mayor Schmidt for allowing us to hold our housing meeting here this morning. With that, we'll go ahead and get started. And General Counsel, if you let me know if we have a quorum, we'll get moving.
Chair, you do have a quorum.
Great. We'll call to order the December 2018 meeting for the IHCDA Board of Directors. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from November 15, 2018.
Make a motion?
Second.
Any question? If not, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving the minutes from November 15, 2018?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, guys. We'll move on for rental housing tax credits and welcome Alan Rakowski to discuss a recommendation for the 2018 general set-aside for moving forward 3.0.
All right, good morning and thank you. I'm here to present the two recommendations for the Moving Forward 3.0 program. So I'll start with a little background. This is the third iteration of Moving Forward. This version was released, or the RFQ was released in May of 2017. We announced that once again we'd be using our general set-aside in QAP to combine affordable housing with transportation, energy efficiency, and other community needs. The goal moving forward is to create housing that increases quality of life while decreasing cost of living for low to moderate income individuals and families. This version is modeled after the first two, but the distinction here is that 3.0 is specifically restricted to developments in Lake County, Indiana, with a preference for at least one of those developments in East Chicago. And this was in response to the lead-based paint crisis and lack of safe housing in the area. Once again, the IHCDA partnered with ESN to work on assembling a team of subject matter experts in the areas of poverty alleviation, transportation, built environment, finance and policy, and utility systems. These industry experts would then work through developers who we would select through the RFQ process to help them create innovative systems approach to housing concepts that focus on poverty alleviation, transportation models, the built environment, policy and finance issues, and utility systems. So as part of the RFQ process, as we do with the first two rounds of Moving Forward, respondents did not submit a proposal to us. What they did is submitted to us the team members, their qualifications, and the actual housing proposal would be developed through the workshops after they were selected. So a little bit more on the process. The responses to the RFQs were due on July 10th of 2017. The highlights of the RFQ required that they list leads actually in 6 categories and provide resumes, that being poverty alleviation, transportation, built environment, finance and policy, and utility systems, and systems integration. They were also required to provide a narrative talking about their experience related to administering existing programs designed to overcome poverty, providing comprehensive services, evaluating success of current programs, and also describing their development team's proposed anti-poverty strategies that they would incorporate for the development that they would choose to build. Also, we wanted to see the development team's experience in designing and constructing innovative housing developments, discussion on the team's experience working with utility companies and implementing energy efficient design, and description of the development team's experience connecting housing with transportation, and experience leveraging and managing complex funding sources, and also working with a university or other third-party researcher to help to evaluate outcomes. So we received 6 responses on July 10th of 2017. IHCDA assembled a external and cross-departmental selection committee. We had IHCDA staff and also constituents in East Chicago and Lake County were part of the team that heard the 6 proposals being presented to the IHCDA and the review committee on August 7th of 2017. So the 6 respondents then were invited to come to East Chicago. We had the presentations actually in the Carrigash Elementary School in East Chicago. Each team was given 10 minutes to present their qualifications, followed by 5 minutes from the selection committee. So those happened on August 7th, and then after reconvening with the both internal and external selection committee, we decided on the 2 selected teams on September 1st of 2017. So the 2 entities chosen, I'll mention Up Development LLC. We have a representative, Alex, from Up Development is here. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer any questions. The second team is MVAH Holding LLC, and on your memo you have who they had in the different roles that were presented to us as part of their RFQ. So once we selected the 2 teams, both teams went through the Moving Forward workshop. Again, it was at the elementary school in East Chicago. This was on November 14th and 15th. So this is where they come together for 2 days with the subject matter experts that ESN helps us to recruit to really work on high-level proposals for what they're going to do. So it's 2 days of a pretty intense workshop. We just had our Moving Forward RD one for the next round of Moving Forward last month that Jake talked a little bit about, I think, at the last board meeting. So the idea is to move from kind of a high-level stretch goals to getting to a point where at the end of day 2 they have proposals that they can hopefully turn into action plans, including stretch goals and kind of what they really hope to accomplish with the Moving Forward program. After the workshop concluded last November, they continued to work with IHCDA, with ESN on finalizing their site selection and collaborating with us and other partners, other subject matter experts, as they really did the hard work of putting these proposals together. So in October of this year, we received the 2 applications for credits. These are going to be 2018 tax credit awards, so we have to have these approved this year. The 2 self-scoring applications went through a due diligence process that we do for every tax credit deal that comes in. We ensure that it met financial analysis criteria, technical review, market study, so all the things we look at over the course of a more traditional tax credit application. We allowed them an opportunity to respond to any deficiencies, whether it be related to clarifications or technical deficiency that they had to correct. And at the completion of that process, we determined that both developments met the criteria of the 2018-19 QAP. So the 2 projects, I'm going to jump in the board memo to the project descriptions to give you a little bit of detail about what these projects will be, where they will be, and what they're proposing to do. The first one is Alder Place in East Chicago. This is the project being proposed by Up Development. It'll be in the North Harbor neighborhood in East Chicago. Alder Place will be the new construction of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, with HealthLink Inc. leasing the part of the first floor to provide a federally qualified health center. Some other key features include net zero energy consumption, working for high indoor air quality through the advanced buildings material standards and competing in the Living Building Challenge, multimodal transportation options through a partnership with Active Transit Alliance. They have outcome tracking systems in place, working on the wage and asset growth plan addressing health and well-being, housing, education, financial stability, and employment. And really one of the highlights is the first floor community space referred to as a hub that'll be available for residents and service partners, and also will house, part of the first floor will house the health center. The second project it will be in Gary, Indiana. This project is called Broadway Lofts, being undertaken by MVH Holdings. It'll be a 38-unit family-oriented development focusing on workforce rental housing in downtown Gary. It will contain a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units. It has 3 really overarching goals: to create a diverse neighborhood with a net zero building, help restore the Broadway corridor, and create a family ecosystem that brings high quality of life by integrating safety, education, training, and empowerment. So some of the key design features will be have a high efficiency heating and cooling through an air-cooled variable refrigerant flow system. It also will have a goal of net energy with rooftop solar panels. And they're partnering with Northwest Indiana Community Action to implement anti-poverty strategies that will include workforce and healthcare initiatives. Also, they'll have an establishment of a WIC clinic on site, working on different transportation considerations, potentially car sharing, bike sharing, and it has good access to nearby transit, and an on-site greenhouse for growing of fresh food. So, for context, we had our June board meeting in Gary. I think it was Veterans Village, I believe was the name of it. But this is about it'd be a half mile from that site. So you can see it's in a neighborhood where they're really trying to revitalize kind of the core of Gary, and I think this will really contribute to that. So at this point, before I read the resolution, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions from the board? If not, we'll hear a resolution. Okay, staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolutions. Resolve that the board approve an award of rental housing tax credits in the aggregate amount not to exceed $1,860,000, and an award of development funds in an aggregate amount not to exceed $1 million to UPD Alder Place LP and Gary Broadway Lofts LLC as described in the development summary sheets as recommended by staff.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a proper motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Thank you. Looks like Alan also has a recommendation for bond volume 4% credits, Evergreen Village of Fort Wayne.
Right, so the second recommendation I have today is for a bond proposal in Fort Wayne called Evergreen Village of Fort Wayne. This came in through the 2018 bond application round. It's the 7th application that we received and reviewed. It has a total development cost of $27.8 million, $20,125,000 in bond volume, and $719,836 in tax credits. It'll create 94 units of affordable housing and also contains 31 market rate units. Evergreen Partners is proposing this new construction of the 125-unit assisted living community in Fort Wayne. It's very similar to a lot of the product we've seen for affordable assisted living. It'll have a mix of studio and one-bedroom units. It'll be mixed income with 31 market rate units, 94 affordable. It's also utilizing income averaging, which will allow them to target tenants up to 80% AMI under the tax credit program. It's in a good location within 2 miles of a hospital, and transportation to local amenities and services will be provided by the property management company. During the round, we ensured that it met the criteria of the QAP, and as we do with every bond application, we invite the development team to come in and present to members of the real estate department and executive committee on November 13th to present the deal to us and give us a chance to ask any remaining questions that we may have had. So the recommendation is the $20,125,000 in bond volume and $719,836 in annual tax credits to EV Fort Wayne Limited Partnership for Evergreen Village at Fort Wayne. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Alan, just a quick question. Can you remind us, Evergreen Partners 3, the applicant, what experience they've got with doing the assisted living work?
They have experience. They've done one deal with us already. They did the affordable assisted living in Bloomington, Evergreen Partners in Bloomington. That one is completed and leasing up. They're very close to submitting the final application to get the tax credits. So they have experience. That's their experience in Indiana. But it's a company that has over 20 years of experience around the country and tax credit development and various types of financing. So the affordable assisted living, I think, is newer to them as it is for a lot of the developers that we're seeing now, but they've partnered with experienced property managers and service providers. So they've demonstrated real good progress on Bloomington. So we think that their experience certainly is where it needs to be.
Thank you. Sometimes it's hard to tell with all the LLC names, like you don't know who's behind. Like,
Right.
is this the same group that's done another one? So I
Right.
appreciate
Yep.
that. Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we'll ask for a motion.
Okay, staff respectfully request the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve awarding $20,125,000 in bond volume and $719,836 in annual tax credits to EV FW Limited Partnership for Evergreen Village at Fort Wayne in accordance to the terms of the 2018 AB application round as recommended by staff.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. We'll now call up Samantha Spurgo, who has 3 recommendations that we will review separately regarding 2017 Supportive Housing Institute.
Great, good morning.
Good morning.
This morning, I'm here to present on Hope Springs Apartments. As you may remember, a few months ago, I presented a similar project in Elkhart, Indiana. This is a project that went through the 2017 Supportive Housing Institute through our partnership with Corporation for Supportive Housing, or CSH. That specific institute was highly focused on utilizing the Home Investment Partnerships Program grant and the National Housing Trust Fund to provide capital financing and training for smaller supportive housing or integrated supportive housing projects in more rural localities throughout the state, instead of how we've typically set up the institute, really focused on the larger integrated or full supportive housing projects. So the Community Service Center of Morgan County, also known as Wellspring, was successful in the institute. Hope Springs Apartment is in Martinsville, Indiana. This project will consist of 13 units, which has sort of a wide range of bedrooms. So we do see 6 2-bedroom, 4 3-bedroom, and 3 4-bedroom units, which we don't normally see, really targeted toward families. And they are focusing on families experiencing a risk of homelessness with at least one member of that family who either has a diagnosable substance use disorder, serious mental illness, or a chronic physical illness or disability. So I think this project will be highly impactful. Again, it's exciting to see another successful project through this institute and to continue to see that moving forward. And with that, I can entertain any questions you may have.
I guess, Sam, just real quick, on the 2 grants and then the loan, will you help us? This is an existing project. Kind of what revenue are they looking to be able to repay the loan with? I mean, give a sense of like how that development fund loan would get repaid?
I'm trying to remember from their application. I believe we did actually change the terms, so they have, the repayment standards were actually more strict than we require. So under the 5 years, they worked with Milestone Ventures, who has considerable experience in providing technical assistance and consulting. I don't remember the exact source and how they plan on redoing it.
Mark, all the loan will be repaid from cash flow from the rent of the project.
Just
And after
project
City
grant.
Staff actually came up to recommend the rental assistance for the project. So this will be 100% subsidized through project-based Section 8, which will ensure that the mix of the Section 8 voucher plus the tenant pay rent portion, the rent will fully be able to cover cash flow.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? For your first
Great.
recommendation?
Thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolutions. Resolve that the board approve awarding home funding in the form of a grant in an amount not to exceed $1,200,000 to Community Service Center of Morgan County Incorporated as recommended by staff.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolutions. Resolve that the board approve awarding National Housing Trust Fund funding in the form of a grant in an amount not to exceed $587,500 to Community Service Center of Morgan County Incorporated as recommended by staff.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Last, staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolutions. Resolve that the board approve awarding Affordable Housing and Community Development Fund funding in the form of a loan in an amount not to exceed $133,000 to Community Service Center of Morgan County Incorporated as recommended by staff.
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. And now Matt will come up with some additional information on Hope Springs.
Well, good morning, Board. I already gave a slight teaser on where I'm heading with this memo about the rental assistance to answer Sam's question, or Mark's question from Sam's presentation. But Mark, your question was great because, as we said, this project is going to be serving families who are either highly at risk of becoming homeless or who are currently homeless. So we know at the time of entry to the development, many of them will be have no income sources or be very low income. And part of the services provided on site will be to help them obtain income sources through benefits they're eligible for, or ultimately to help them connect with employment opportunities as well. But because the families will be so extremely low income, it is very important for not only this development, but all supportive housing that we develop to make sure that we put project-based rental assistance to increase the affordability for the families and to make sure that the project does cash flow and be able to pay off any debt that may be on the project. So in this case, as we have done with several other developments that are created through the Supportive Housing Institute, we've been able to, through our Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Administrative Plan, we have approval from HUD to project-based vouchers into a development so that instead of the tenant getting a voucher and coming to the unit, the rental assistance is tied specifically to the units. So in this case, since the development did go through the Institute, it is eligible through the state's Section 8 admin plan to apply for project-based vouchers. We are allowed to use up to 30% of our total housing choice voucher authority for project basing. We are well under that. We are in fact under 10% of our total voucher authority is used for project-based vouchers. So we still have plenty of room to grow and continue to project-based to future supportive housing developments. So our request today is for approval, since now we have received approval for the capital funding to build this development, is then to also get board approval today to make sure that all 13 units in that development are covered with project-based rental assistance. So that's what the memo in front of you is for. It would be a full 20-year contract to ensure long-term affordability and sustainability of the project. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Sounds like you covered it all.
Excellent. Okay. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve an award of 13 project-based vouchers to Community Service Center of Morgan County, Inc. for the Hope Springs Apartments for a period of 20 years based on the annual fair market rents for Morgan County, Indiana, as recommended by staff.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have Rich Harcourt with a recommendation for single-family mortgage revenue bonds, 2019 Series A.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
I have with me today Kim Harris, who manages our single-family business. But this is a yet another bond issue for our tax-exempt single-family revenue bonds under the 2016 amended and restated indenture of trust. These bonds, these tax-exempt, non-recourse bonds support our single-family bond business, primarily for first-time home buyers. And as you'll recall, we like to issue in a good market 2 to 3 times a year. This resolution contemplates an approval of $80 million. I think the bond will probably be sized somewhere in the $50 to $60 million range. Includes a little bit of cross-collateralization, or as Mark Pasquarella says, some equity going into it. And there is an approval component of it that allows us to do variable rate debt if the market points that way. And at this point in time, there's no thought around doing any kind of variable rate debt. It really does look like we'll get it done in a fixed rate basis. But we like the resolution to be broad enough to give us that flexibility. And I promise and vow that if it looks like variable rate debt is going to be a part of it, we'll have a conversation with Mark and the IFA before we issue. But I don't think there's a variable rate piece in this. Again, it's non-recourse conduit financing for us. The team this time will be RCB Capital Markets as the lead underwriter. Recall that we bounce back and forth between RBC and JPMC. CFX is a financial advisor, and then we've got Ice Millers as bond counsel, and we have representatives here. So we would recommend the board approve the issuance of the 19 Series A bonds.
I'll just do a couple of notes here.
Please.
Real quick. So we worked with Rich. He came over, he explained the necessary reason for the bonding, and actually it's a good story because that means the single-family bond program is expanding, and even as rates are rising, demand for the product from what we're talking about with Rich seems to keep escalating, which again is a good thing because you're talking about first-time home buyers, you're talking about down payment assistance, so you're talking about getting some people into some homes that maybe otherwise would struggle to find it. So I think that's always a good thing for Indiana. He did mention that they could issue fixed rate bonds or they could issue the variable rate debt, so we did discuss that, and I asked Rich to mention that just for the sole purpose of not having to come back in front of the board. They'll have 2 options. There's the traditional fixed, and then there's also variable rate that would be hedged with some sort of derivative product like a swap. Both of those are options. Sometimes depend on market dynamics. One could be significantly better than the other. The only way that we'd ever do the variable with the hedge would only be if it provided a significant amount of savings to the IHCDA. If they start getting comparable or very close, you just go with the traditional fixed because it's just simple and it's easy. It's understandable. But I want him to bring that up to the board because what I didn't want to have happen is the board think, okay, everything's going to be fixed, and all of a sudden find out later on that they did some variables. So I thought it was important to be able to bring it to the board, both options, so that Rich and his team can make a market determination. The board's aware of what he's doing, and therefore they don't have to worry about coming back. So hence the mention of it. So.
Appreciate that. Any questions?
I've seen in my industry, the first-time home buyer having a flexible mortgage is not good. They need to lock in on a fixed rate so they can budget. I've seen problems with adjusting.
Well, they will lock in, the rate for the mortgage will be fixed. But it'll be how we're backing up the bonding to be able to fund those mortgages.
Okay.
Would be using variable rate, and then it's actually getting fixed with the derivative product. So it's still a fixed rate product. It's just a different way of how IHCDA would be used to be funding that.
It's not the buyer itself.
Yeah, it's not the buyer itself. The buyer itself would be in fixed rate.
Okay.
And then the other added thing that we always like to add, I always say this is kind of IHCDA's type debt as opposed to the true conduit program. But then again, also this debt, to be more clear, is inside of an indenture. And the actual collateral, they'll buy mortgage-backed securities that will actually be the collateral to pay back the debt. So the general fund actually is not going to be at risk because of this. So that's why when he said non-recourse, that's what he was referring to. So I'd like to bring that up again to make sure that the board does not feel that they are actually putting IHCDA general fund money at risk. So this is just a single-family program, and again, it seems to be doing very well. And this is just another way of supporting it.
Definite need.
Probably too much detail, but
The general fund is safe, which is good.
I figured that term would make people happy.
We'll hear your resolution, Rich.
Yeah, I'd just say this. It's wonderful to have a partner like Mark and the IFA to help us and give us some guidance. They've really been terrific to work with, and we appreciate it. Action needed. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approves the issuance of the 2019 Series A bonds and related transactions pursuant to the attached resolution as recommended by staff.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Rich. You also have a recommendation regarding Old Shelby High School apartments.
Yeah, thank you. This is a 49-unit rehab of existing rental housing in Shelbyville, Indiana, that you all saw and approved in April 28 of 2016. And it's had a tumultuous road towards closing. It's a small transaction. It originally had a little bit of a cash flow gap that took some time to work through. And then, as it turns out, the equity markets got soft, and they had a difficult time raising the equity. And so it's taken a while to develop, but it's back, and we believe it to be a good project. They have asked us to be the issuer of the tax-exempt notes, and so the approval, the resolution in front of you, merely is asking your permission for the IHCDA to be the issuer of the Series 2018 Multifamily Housing Revenue Notes. Again, this is non-recourse to the IHCDA, paid for by the rents and the revenues from the property. So staff recommends the board to approve issuance of the Series 2018 Multifamily Housing Revenue Bonds, Old Shelby High Apartments LLC project pursuant to the attached resolution.
Any questions?
Motion to approve, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Mark, can you please give us an update on the 2019 general fund operating budget?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to go through, it looks like page 2 of your packet here, and I'm going to try not to dive into the weeds this time, just so we can make sure we get moving and we don't get into some long exercises of discussions. However, I do want to hit some of the major points. So we'll start, obviously, when you're looking at this, it looks very much with your revenues and your expenses. So we'll start with revenues. Revenues and investments are going to be increasing, budgeted-wise, about 17%. Most of that's really due to the higher interest income that's expected to come from the portfolio. I'm sure everyone is aware that interest rates have been rising, specifically on the short end as well. So we're trying to reflect that that's actually going to happen. Fees, of course, are going to be increasing. They show about 25% increase. While I'd love to get happy about that, part of that is more or less just trying to get more realistic numbers than what's been in the past. IHCDA tries to be conservative, as you can imagine. Any organization that runs, they don't want to overstate what they think they're going to receive, only to find out at the end of the year they did not receive it. However, whenever you're going through the budgetary process, it's important to make sure that you also plan accordingly and make sure that those numbers have a realistic basis. So as opposed to just trying to figure out what was conservative, they did some trend analysis, and therefore I think we have a more accurate number. So please don't look at that as if fees are going to jump up that much. It's more just reflecting what has been happening. And other income is going to be decreasing, but that's primary from issuances of multifamily deals have been down on the conduit bonds. If you move to the expenses, we're really going to look at 4 of them. It's the equipment and software expenses, depreciation expense, lease interest expense, and the professional services. The equipment and software, this is always one that's tough to explain. You see a major difference, but the reality of it is it's really, I call it like an accounting situation and how it's being reflected. So we used to include capital as well as expensed items, but now it's solely going to be focused on expensed. And so you're seeing a big shift in the variance, but the actual variance, if you were to look at it, if they were to show the same way they did in 2018, is actually positive. Again, this is more of just accounting numbers that are shifting. So, of course, our job is to make sure, is there a problem or an issue? And from our discussions with IHCDA staff, there seem to be no issues. Again, it just comes down to a reporting. Depreciation expense, this is actually the first time it's going to show up on the budget situation. It has been in all the financial statements, so this is not something that's going to be brand new reflecting the financial statements, but they are moving it and put it into the budget. So again, hence why you are seeing that down here today. And if we move to leased interest expense, this is, as with depreciation, this is due to, well, GASB is also another reason, by the way, but GASB pronouncements for operating versus capital leases, they are going to be budgeting leased expenses. And then for professional services, this one's a little bit different. It is going to be rising. They do have several new initiatives such as housing data web-based platform, as well as a digital engagement for services for the homeownership department and energy assistance program. Had to write that one down because I'm not going to remember that. One thing I will say about professional services is in the past, we have discussed this with IHCDA staff, especially when it comes to software and other items, and professional services dealing with IT. They've done a good job of, if they need to spend the money, spending the money. If they did not need to spend the money, they have not spent the money. So as we start to see these outlays, we believe that the staff has appropriately evaluated them, determined that whether or not those expenses need to be made, as opposed to doing the famous, what we have in the budget, so let's just go ahead and spend it. So I thought that that was good and acceptable. I think the big thing that everyone likes to look at when you're looking at any type of budget is, are we planning on breaking even or being profitable, in the sense of at least being able to cover our expenses? The answer to that is yes, as you look at that bottom line. The other important thing I think people, I hope, realize is that IHCDA tries their best to budget conservatively but realistically, and that's what you're seeing in some of the numbers, so that they cannot be draining those general fund dollars, because there are some initiatives that Jake has alluded to in the future that will require possibly some investment from IHCDA, and keeping that powder dry is important. So the budget is put together. Of course, as you know, when we go through our year-end numbers, it will change because that's the way it happens. But again, I think this is a good start. The whole staff was involved. They were very engaged. They answered all of our questions in a timely manner. And so we feel very confident being able to present this to you today. So with that, I'd be happy for us or the staff to take any questions.
So Mark, that equity transfer, I'm sorry, so that there is that total kind of top bottom line of here where they are, sorry, of total expense, and then from that excess revenues over expenses, they're taking some of that and putting it into, as you said, those set aside buckets for those new initiatives.
Right.
Okay.
I'm trying to think, do I have a resolution I need to read?
We do need one.
Yes.
Here you go.
So without any further questions, I
questions?
don't want to jump the gun here, but I wanted to stay high level.
Probably good.
Yeah, thank you.
Unless you'd really like to get into details, I'd be happy to go through it page by page. Well, with that then,
Please.
the recommendation is the Budget Committee recommends the approval of the 2019 general operating budget as depicted in Exhibit A.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Pasquarelli, for the in-depth review and information, and we'll look forward to 2019's actions. With that, I will bring forward Brad Meadows for a marketing and communications update. It's on the board behind you.
Well, good morning, Board. I'm pleased to come to you this morning without a resolution, so no worries about that. But I do have a presentation to share with you. It was an exciting year at IHCDA in 2018, as you guys have seen, so I'm the last staff person that gets to share with you, which I think makes sense. As I really kind of walk through kind of an agency performance profile, so to speak, from a marketing and communication standpoint. So before I do that, I'd like to introduce the team. As you'll see pictured there, Brian Phillips, of course, which he's very integral in putting on the board meetings each month, specifically when we go on the road. Teresa Turner, which does a lot with our social media. She also does a lot with constituent communication. And then, of course, myself. So as I frame this conversation this morning, I first wanted to kind of outline what the role of marketing and communications is, not only within IHCDA, but just within any business. And I think as we saw this morning, just in the resolutions that were brought before you and the budget, we do a lot of good work, I think, at IHCDA. We have a lot of programs, and if no one knows about them, then who cares, right? So we have to make sure that people know about the great programs that are available. I know we talked about the first-time homebuyer programs. the rental housing that's available, all that we have available for Hoosiers, and it's important that we let them know about that. So that's what our team is all about. So the main functions of the team, and I'll just kind of put them all out there for you, and I want to touch on each of them just briefly this morning, is the website, looking at traditional media, social media, electronic communication, which Mark talked about with regards to the budget and a slight increase in this budget, which I'm glad it is approved. And then the publications that we release, as well as some of the events and outreach. The one area and the one word that I'm very passionate about is consistency. So as you'll see throughout this, we are very conscious of the IHCDA brand and how we present that across all 92 counties here in Indiana. So I'll start with the website. So for the third consecutive year, we've been over 1 million page views. The numbers that I'm sharing with you throughout the presentation are through the end of November. As you can see, we're slightly under that, but I can confirm we're over 1 million as of right now. How that's broken down, we have 3 web pages. So we have our consumer website, our homeownership or single family website, and then our partner website. You can see the breakdowns there. About 3/5 or 60% is on the consumer side, and about 20% each between our homeownership and partner websites. What I found particularly interesting as I look at our website data is that about 62% of our traffic comes from search engines. So people are actually going online and searching for a particular need. So as we think about the advertising dollars and the ways that we're getting the word out, we're really looking at search engine optimization in any way that we can ensure that we are best connecting Hoosiers that are looking for assistance with the programs that we have. We have a total of about 250 web pages as well, which I think is quite interesting. So I'm a proud Ball State grad, so I'm going to do my best David Letterman impersonation and do a modified top 10. So I'm going to do a top 5 list of our web pages. So number 5 is renters' rights in Indiana. We have homeownership opportunities at 4, housing choice vouchers, section 8, which I know Matt Rayburn talked a little bit about this morning, at number 3. Another homeownership page at number 2, and then our energy assistance program, as you can see, is far and away the most viewed page on our website, which again, that program serves over 100,000 Hoosier families every year, so I have no doubt that that's number 1. An interesting note of those 1 million page views, about 35% come from those 5 pages. So as you can imagine, a lot of our efforts are focused on ensuring the user experience on those 5 pages. We also think it's interesting as we compare is looking at the calls that we get in. So I know part of the budget increase this year is looking at Salesforce and the way that we can best communicate to our constituents that are calling in. So you can see there's some good consistency in the reasons people are calling us, and then our website activity as well. So as part of that optimization, the screenshot you'll see above is our website. So you can see that main graphic there of the house that actually leads to our section 8 page, and then on the right you'll see energy assistance. So we've really tried to make those pages much more prominent on our website.
Question.
Yes.
Are we capturing visitor data from those pages once they are visiting, or is it just the metrics? Are we getting specifics of the visitors that we can follow up and reach out to or connect
So we're
with?
able to track kind of their path. So when
Okay.
they get on the website, like when they get to the page, are they going to other pages? Are they opening links, that sort of thing. So there's no way, I guess, to really track, I mean, as far as like on an individual like IP address or anything, like if they're
Or
going
do we
there.
have
But
fill out information to
correct.
gather information type of, okay.
Absolutely.
Mark, do you have a sense, pardon me, on what the phone volume is at the front desk?
I don't have the exact number, but I know that number has gone down a little bit, especially since we've better optimized the phone tree and, getting people more quickly. So not all the calls are going directly to the front desk now, so they're getting filtered to, individual departments to handle those. Okay. So I think we're more in terms of hundreds of calls per month versus thousands. I hear 250 a week, actually, from the audience. So.
And real quick, is that part of it to make sure that when people go on that website, they are going to be transferred to the right person, so they don't get the frustration of calling a front desk and being transferred to different departments?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of times, I mean, especially with energy assistance, I mean, it's more it's better for them to talk to one of the local service providers versus talking to us and then in turn transferring them to a local service provider to apply. So yeah, all about customer service. So as we think about traditional media, one thing that we do every morning is send out some news clips to our staff. So anytime our agency has been mentioned in the news, we want to make sure our senior leadership team is aware of that. So far in 2018, we've had over 850 articles that have been, IHCDA has been mentioned in. About 200 million people have been exposed to IHCDA through those articles this year. The top 3 areas where these articles are at is affordable housing, which makes sense. We saw our moving forward 3.0 projects go before the board today. Placemaking, which Carmen Lethig has done a phenomenal job with, really making us a leader, I believe, within the state with regards to placemaking. And then our hardest hit fund, which is not only the mortgage payment assistance, but also the blight elimination program, is number 3 on that list. We've also done 76 media interviews, so again, earned media opportunities. I don't so much count the ones where we just get a call for clarification, but more so when we have an opportunity to really go out and talk about our programs. So one way that we're getting the word out about specifically our single-family programs is through the public education program. This is a program that's offered to 4 state agencies every single year, and we're one of those PEP sponsors. Basically, in exchange for a donation to the Indiana Broadcasters Association, we are given 20 spots every month across all of their member stations. So that's across all 92 counties. Just about every media, radio and TV is a part of the Indiana Broadcasters Association's membership. So again, through that sponsorship, we've gotten about $2.5 million every year in advertising value for a much smaller donation. And it's a specific program they do for state agencies to get the message out about very important public or state programs, which are single-family programs being one of those, you know, the importance of home buying. So those are a couple screenshots from the commercial, and I believe Kim Harris, during one of his home ownership updates, showed you guys those commercials earlier in the year, so I won't show you those. But an interesting note, in the first 12 months, our radio and TV ads aired over 50,000 times, which I think is very, very interesting. I've seen it come on during the Brickyard 400 on WTHR. I've also seen it come on during Good Morning America. Again, that 2.5 million I think is very conservative. So I think we're really getting a lot of good exposure through that partnership, and I think we've seen the revenue on our single-family side grow. We've seen more traffic to our website, so certainly we want to make sure we're connecting the dots when we're investing money in marketing and advertising. Next is social media. So again, I showed those graphics. Consistency is a big thing, like I mentioned, so there's some of the social media graphics we've developed with regards to single-family. There's some of our growth. Again, I'm really big on numbers too, and I hear you guys like them as well. So we've had a good increase in our social media presence. Again, this is just another way to educate about the great work we're doing and the programs we have available at IHCDA. We've launched a couple new social media platforms over the last 12 months, and we've really done a lot with video. Teresa Turner, as I shared with you earlier, she does a lot with social media. As part of that, she's developed a lot of really cool videos. It's gotten a lot of engagement on social media. Newsletters, I know Mark mentioned with regards to the budget gov delivery, or Granicus as it's called now. That's one of the increases. So we utilize gov delivery to send out all of our electronic communication. There's some screenshots on the right that gives you an idea of what these look like. And those are a few of the examples of some of the newsletters. Overall, we have a total of 15 listservs, so separate listservs that receive that information. Folks can go on our website and subscribe to receive those updates. One that I'm particularly proud of, as you look at, is an RFP RFQ list. So anytime we release one of those, we have now a specific list where people can not only sign up to receive those, but we can track who receives those requests, just to make sure that they're, we're being as transparent as possible and people are aware of those opportunities. We did see a good increase in the number of total subscribers, so we're over 12,000 total subscribers between those listservs. And our partnership with Granicus was outlined in the budget, will allow us to further grow those those listservs specifically with single family, so potential home buyers, as well as individuals that could qualify for EAP. And that involves working with other state agencies that have clientele that, fit those demographics, that we could provide some cross-promotion on our programs. So as far as the data, what we've sent so far, this year we've sent over 200 bulletins, an engagement rate of over 47%, which just means someone is subscribing to our list, clicks on a bulletin. We've had over 230,000 impressions, and the network impact is an interesting data point. It's actually the percentage of growth in subscribers. So again, working with other state agencies, we've worked with the State Department of Health and FSSA specifically to get their listservs to make sure we're giving Hoosiers the opportunity to get program information from multiple sources. Publications is next, so I believe every month you guys get a hard copy of our magazine each time it is released, and those are covers from the last 4 issues. We'll be releasing our next issue in January. I'm really excited about that. In addition to releasing hard copies of that and mailing it out throughout the state, as you can see, a limited number of copies. It's also available electronically, so each of those issues are ranging between 24 and 32 pages. We found the sweet spot to be a little closer to that 24 to 26 page range, as we see a pretty good drop off after that. And then we've had over 60,000 page views on the magazine this year. And I really love the magazine from the standpoint of it's a way for us to tell those stories. You see the cover on the far right. She's our outstanding resident volunteer for 2018. Her story is phenomenal. And I encourage you guys, if you haven't, to take a chance. But she was a homeless veteran living in Kokomo, was able to move into Jackson Street Commons, and now she leads their resident council and is doing phenomenal things there in Kokomo. And she, was in the Air Force, was in an abusive relationship, and now she's got her life back on track. So it's an opportunity for us to tell those client stories, but it's also a way for us to highlight best practices, to inspire creativity across our communities, and really highlight some of the great work that our partners are doing across the state. There's a picture of our Lieutenant Governor there in the middle. Of course, Jake's there on the left, but we talked about moving forward, but last year, that's our annual report from last year that we released earlier in February. But that was from the first moving forward iteration, and that's the first groundbreaking up in Fort Wayne. So I know we're excited about the opening of that probably next year. But the annual report will be released sometime in February, and again, similar to the magazine, it's a great way for us to show the awesome stuff we're doing at IHCDA and the impactful things. So you guys will, I'm sure, be getting an update from 2018. Early next year. And I put February, but we're likely going to be releasing that sometime next month. Lastly is events and outreach. So part of our role as the marketing and communications team is to work with our program departments and to coordinate our participation in events. We've participated in over 100 events this year, ranging from groundbreakings and grand openings to board meetings on the road like this one. And we track each of those events and work to increase the participation across our agency. Lastly, just a very brief look at 2019. Now that the budget's approved, I feel more comfortable sharing these with you. Tying it specifically into our strategic plan, we've got 3 major things we're working on. The first is an ambassador program, which again is a way for us to work with our staff to make sure they're more educated about IHCDA overall, so not just their individual program area, but ways in which they can have an elevator speech, and even more so about the great things that we can do as an agency, but even beyond that, what other resources exist, so when they come into contact with a constituent or a partner, they can share those opportunities. Advancing on the style guide, again, it's all about consistency and making sure that our brand is always used in the proper way, and that our partners are respectful of that, and as well as our staff. And then the website, this is very exciting. So I shared with you some website data, but we certainly are always looking at the user experience of our website, like Tracy alluded to, making sure that individuals that are on that site are getting the information they need efficiently and not having to search around for it. So we're very excited about the continued evolution of our website. With that said, that was a lot to throw at you guys, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Just, Brad, real quick, this, and maybe having some history, it seems like this is kind of full-fledged realization of the initiative started 3 or 4 years ago to move marketing from just like to our professionals and our partners. A lot of this talks about embracing the consumer-facing with a, homeownership page, some of the social media work. Just wondering, maybe this is more for the program side, are we seeing kind of that reflected in upticks in program numbers? Has that philosophy of marketing both to kind of the business side and the consumer side been reflected in programmatic numbers?
That's a great question. I think for, specifically single-family and energy assistance, the two programs we highlighted quite a bit, the focus for both of them is to increase the number of people that are using the programs. But specifically with single-family, we want to make sure that we are complementing the work that our account executives are out doing with lenders, and we want to make sure that we are creating more of a statewide message around homeownership. But as we look at our metrics, certainly we want to make sure that we're increasing the number of people, and I think we are. With energy assistance, I think it's the same thing. We want to create a statewide brand for energy assistance. It's not local service providers having to develop a brand or try to sell energy assistance. There's now a statewide program, and we can provide them the collateral materials and the information they can do so they can promote it on a local level, but then we have consistency so that if someone moves around or just, they know what the program is. It's not specific to that local service provider. But as we think about metrics, it's all about making sure more people, especially for energy assistance, we know how many people from an income level qualify for the program, and we're only hitting a percentage of that, and we want that percentage to go up. People that, can benefit from energy assistance, we want to make sure they're aware of it. And, David Stewart and I were talking this morning, unfortunately, it's a lot of people using energy assistance that have just used it before. That's how they find out about it. And we want more people that qualify for that program to be aware of it and to apply.
So it sounds like there may be some opportunity to get more targeted and proactive with the specific consumer outreach side.
I think it's always been interesting as this agency because we don't actually provide the direct service, right? So there's always that, I think we always struggled putting on the old hat with, do you market to consumers because you don't want to drive them to IHCDA necessarily because they're getting it from the local level. But that it's interesting you talk about just that awareness of the program in general.
Yes.
Arming your local partners who are doing the direct service, right, and then making sure you capture that in some way.
Well, it's definitely positive information and feedback seems to show a great start to actually capturing that data and those metrics and bringing value from the marketing team. So good job to all three of you, and thank you for the report.
Awesome. Thank you.
We'll open the floor to Mr. Sipe for an executive director report.
Okay, it's always hard to follow marketing and communications. Just a couple of quick updates here for the board and also for the public. We go through this, seems like every year, and we're prepared that if there was to be a federal government shutdown, what would happen to these programs. Specifically, like you said, Mark, sometimes we have direct impact on people's and individuals' lives, and so IHCDA does have operating procedures in place if the federal government were to shut down to ensure that we can continue to provide essential programs to some of folks who rely on our on the benefits that we can provide. For example, energy assistance programs, a good example, where we would continue to do our best to make sure that those heating benefits are going out to families and households who are eligible for those, and there's no disruption there. So we've been through this before. This isn't the first time that we've actually gone through a shutdown, but we are prepared if the government does decide to shut down this weekend. But we will just want to make sure the board's aware of that, and we always continue to evaluate our operating procedures to make sure that we can be effective. Because each time there is a shutdown, it seems like there's a little bit of different nuance to those, so we'll have to adapt to that if it were to happen. So I just want to make sure the board's aware of that and that we're prepared if that were to happen. So
thank you.
One thing I want to mention too, Matt did a nice job of talking about the Indiana Permanent Supportive Housing Institute and the Martinsville development that we awarded today. We currently have applications in, proposals in to us for the 2019 Indiana Permanent Supportive Housing Institute, and we'll be making that announcement in January, in about 3 weeks or so. So we can give you more information on who those teams are and the locations and the communities we'll be working with in 2019 when it relates to the Permanent Supportive Housing Institute. So I've been talking about this one now, I think, for over 5 years, but the Performance-Based Contract Administration is a contract that we have with HUD to administer the state's project-based voucher program, and we have a partnership with Quad-L to do that. It is a significant impact. It does significantly impact our budget with revenue. And for the last 5 years, HUD has had a continuing renewal of our contract, and they've notified us several times that they will be going out for a competitive bid for that contract. We do have, we're believing that they may go out with a competitive bid sometime in 2019, and we do intend to respond to that bid in 2019. Like last time when we were informed that they were going to go out for a competitive bid but then got delayed, it does appear that we would have to have some kind of partnership with, we'll be put into a region here in the Midwest, and that we would have to probably develop a partnership with another state housing finance agency. The last time when we were going through this, we were anticipating partnering with the state of Illinois, which was going to be our region, Illinois and Indiana. And so we do believe that that may be the case again. So we're prepared and continue to have conversations with Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, and Kentucky if we were to be put into one of their regions, so that we can partner together and respond to the contract. So I just want to continue to keep the board updated on that. I don't know what a timeline looks like, but when that does happen, we would definitely make sure that the board's aware that we are responding to that performance-based contract request. So other than that, right now, I think that's it. Our next board meeting in January, February, and March will be at our office in Indianapolis. So just to give you a heads up on that one. We do plan to go on the road again in 2019, maybe 4 visits. So we're working to identify those locations currently. So, but with that, I want to thank the staff at IHCDA for their hard work, but most importantly, their leadership that they have demonstrated and their passion for our programs. I think we'll see it with the annual report, but IHCDA has continued to be responsible with taxpayer dollars. We've made sure that those dollars have a big impact in our communities that go beyond just their initial intent, whether that be housing or energy assistance or weatherization or savings for IDAs. The staff do a great job with continuing to identify areas where we can improve our policy, our procedures, and that makes it more, makes those programs more efficient and have a bigger impact. We have some really exciting things planned for 2019 that the staff have been working on, and I can't wait to talk a little bit more about those in 2019, because I hopefully that we can continue that spirit of innovation, but also responsibility and having a big impact in our communities. So with that, I want to thank the board for your support. I know we bring some innovative things to you, and I've always been met with support and confidence and good questions. So I just want to thank the board for your work and your leadership as well with IHCDA. So with that, I want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas, and I hope all of you have a very nice Happy New Year. So thank you.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other business to come before the board? I want to take one step back and recognize Alice Weathers from Cape of Evansville. Is Alice here? Did you have any remarks you wanted to share with the body?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Southern and Indiana, and welcome to Princeton. As he said, I'm Alice Weathers. I'm CEO of Community Action Program of Evansville. We serve Gibson, Posey, Vanderburgh County. I think most importantly, I would like to make sure the board and the public knows. Let me also say I've been here 33 years. So I have seen the evolution of IHCDA. And the support they have given us has been tremendous. I've seen the agency grow. I've seen people come and go, except for Brian and Jacob. But never had an issue or a challenge that they haven't been able to help us with and be supportive of. So as the Board of Directors, please know the outstanding work IHCDA does. And again, thank you for coming to Southern Indiana. Happy holidays to you.
Thank you very much. Well, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn on that great positive note.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you all. Thank you to IHCDA. Thank you to Mayor Schmidt, the Princeton Theater. Thanks for having us and appreciate the time here.
Board members, I need signatures.
We need
for
signatures,
resolutions. Yeah.
and there is a tour available. Thank you.